All right, folks, game 2 here for sAviOr versus Android. Up on stage, a failed rush by Android on Neo will ultimately earn sAviOr his first win. He's now up 1-0, which means that if he wins this next matchup, he will advance. And the winner of this matchup will be playing either Phoenix 66 or CNPJ, both who are Chinese players. And Tasteless, very, very fast first match. We're going to be playing on Azalea next, and here it is right now up on the screen. Tell us a little bit about this map.
This map is really interesting because there's no real high ground to go to for the Terran or for the Zerg player. They start out on low ground, and it's got this kind of spiral-like shape in the middle of the map. And, you know, what really can happen here is that Zerg can double expand very easily because they have these two natural expansions that are very close to their main base. And that makes it a lot easier for the Zerg, I think, on a map like this.
All right, well, we're going to waste no time. We're going right into it. sAviOr versus Android, map 2. All right, make some noise. It's map 2. We've got Korea versus Russia up on stage. Will sAviOr take the next game and advance on in the bracket play of StarCraft, or will Android be able to force us to a third map? We're about to find out. I'm DJ Wheat, and I am here with the Storm Observer, Tasteless himself, arguably the best StarCraft commentator in the galaxy.
All right, I'm pretty excited to get this match going right now. You know, that first game did not turn out that well for Android.
Right.
I like the strategy. I understand why he was doing it. It made perfect sense, but he just got out-microed by sAviOr. I mean, what happens when you do a bunker rush strategy like that is you take away the macro. The Zerg player can't utilize a macro. He's forced to only utilize micro in that moment, and sAviOr once again came out on top of micro. Android might have to change up his play a little bit.
Well, he's absolutely going to have to, and, you know, not only do we talk about sAviOr just basically being dominant in the micro on that push, but also really not making a huge effort to defend his base after his failed rush on sAviOr. So we're moving on to Azalea now, and remember, this is a 4-player map, so you can spawn in one of the 4 corners, and as you can see, we've got 2 northern spawns this time. You can see the Terran player Android in the northwest and his opponent sAviOr in the northeast, so some scouting will occur here, Tasteless, to start us off, and it will be necessary to find out exactly where their opponent is. But because this is a 4-player map, having a rush like what we saw Android try before. Now, we did see James Fu attempt a rush. I think that was James Fu or 2 days ago, and he failed as well. But probably not going to see anything like that here in this matchup.
Yeah, I can't wait to see exactly how Android's going to open. You know, that last game, even though I think Android could have chosen to play it out for a little bit longer had he just put 2 SCVs at his ramp and stopped that the Zergling rush, I think he basically decided that, look, I messed up. I just want to start over. I just want to get the new game going. I don't want to waste my energy and you know, my mindset on this game where I've already messed up in that rush. I just want to get a new one going here. Now, okay, all right. Once again, he's going to try it. Now, the question is going to be, can sAviOr keep out-microing these bunker rushes that these foreigner Terrans are throwing at him? Now, all right, so he's going to put that there. Now, notice the position of the supply depot in the barracks. He's going to put that there so that if the rush fails, he'll have a wall that he can recover to.
Right. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a rush tactic that we're seeing here. It actually could be more of a defensive tactic. If you saw the map overview earlier before, the 4 starting locations are like split and then meet in the middle. There's a definite choke point. So at least he's sort of got a wall of defense in theory, should he need to back into his own base.
Yeah, and that may help him if he opts to do that kind of rush. Now, notice that sAviOr's already gotten the spawning pool out and gotten it out quite early. Now, if the Zerg gets a spawning pool out like that, as early as that, I mean, there's just nothing to bunker rush. you bunker rush a player if your opponent gets a hatchery first. That way you can put the hatchery, the bunker down next to the hatchery while the hatchery's building. And once the hatchery completes, so does the bunker. The Zerg loses the hatchery, Terran gets ahead. But in this case, sAviOr's saying, I am not going to hatchery first. I am getting tired of using my drones to beat my opponents. He's going to open up in a different way. He's got the Zerglings out first. Now, Android is a very good player. This does not mean that Android's strategy did not work. He's just going to respond accordingly and probably expand fairly soon here with that early wallet. But then again, it's going to be up to Android and not me for how this game's going to play out. Marine now going to try to peek out at what's going on outside of his base. Now look at these SCVs. They're prepared to fight off those Zerglings if they have to, but those SCVs are not mining minerals, excuse me. So he's going to get a little bit behind.
sAviOr has put up a hatchery here at his natural expansion, so he'll be trying to boost his economy very early on. And you can see that Android does have more units out right now, but that was probably at the cost of this double expansion now that we're seeing from sAviOr at both of his natural expansions. So, I mean, obviously he's preparing himself for a much longer game, having seen the initial build order there of Android.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, now here comes the expansion. Now, that's a good move for Android right now since he got that walling up earlier. He could be able to expand earlier. I like this opening a lot. You could definitely tell this is a practice build by Android. This is a fail-safe in case, in fact, sAviOr did go spawning pool first. He can respond and still do something to try to stay ahead.
Well, let's talk about where we're at right now because we're basically at a crossing point or a fork in the road where a lot of different things can happen. And let's start with Android. Like, what do you think his primary strategy is going to be from this point forward? Now having his first expansion up and based off of what he's got in his base, what would you predict we're going to see out of him?
Well, at this point in time, they're pretty close to each other, so we're probably going to see some kind of push. The question is, when is that push going to happen? The burden of the Zerg is to macro up and mass up as many units as possible and try to harass the Terran and keep the Terran from leaving his base for as long as possible. But at this point in time, sAviOr could either go for lurkers, he could get a Spire up and get some Mutalisks, both he's obviously very good with. But yeah, for Android, I don't know, he may do some harassment as well, but it's really going to come down to when does the Terran push and how can the Zerg respond to it.
All right, and as we continue out here, remember sAviOr won map number 1, so if he wins this one again, he will have eliminated Android and will basically crush his hopes of advancing on and possibly placing for a medal here. Obviously starting much slower than the last matchup, which probably means we're going to see some fantastic battles here as the game progresses. Also, just did see that observer go over. He's very much aware of what's going on, at least at the expansion of Android right now. He hasn't really taken it into the main base at all. And is there a reason for that? I mean, why is that? Well,
first of all, the Overlords are slow. So if he does take it in there, there's a risk that he could lose that Overlord, and that's just something that Zerg can't afford to do. When you have players like Android and sAviOr, I mean, if you're playing against someone like that, you can't even afford to lose an Overlord, really. I mean, even losing a worker or two can hurt you. So his intentions here, I mean, it's going to put sAviOr at a little bit of a disadvantage in the sense that sAviOr will not be able to check out exactly what kind of tech pattern Android's following, but it's also a safe move. And sAviOr is probably one of the safest pro gamers that you can watch play. He does not like to play risky because he's generally better than his opponents. He just wants to sit back, be safe, and win.
All right, now I'm noticing also that we've got this little army of Zergling just south of that choke point of Android, and so far there's about 10 Zerglings there. What is his plan with those Zerglings? I mean, he knows that there's obviously a huge army of Marines right behind that choke point. I even saw a few medics in there, I believe, as well. And they're moving out right now, Tesa. So what is sAviOr going to do with these Zerglings right here?
Well, what he's going to do he has one Zergling out there as a spotter because sAviOr has to see the very second that Android leaves his base, so he can immediately make Sunga colonies. Also, quick note, he did scan the Spire. He knows what his opponent's doing now. But also, the reason for that clump of Zerglings at the bottom is so that he can replace that spotter Zergling if it gets picked off. A lot of times players will go out there and kill whether it's a probe
and Android tried it. He did try it. sAviOr microed him away, but...
Yeah, sAviOr is capable of continuing to macro and micro the spotter that's outside the front of his opponent's base. But the other Zerglings can also be used to run inside, which he might be doing right now. Running up in here, taking a peek Well,
Yeah,
you can see it on
I-
the mini-map, but the
I think
server's
you're
not.
right.
Yeah, he went up there and harassed that depot, and here comes a Mutalisk popping out, rallied right there outside of Android's base. I don't know if Android... Okay, Android's more than prepared for that with that bunker. Marines hop in the bunker. And meanwhile, some Zerglings pick off that depot at the front, causing Android to split his attention a little bit. Android doesn't even seem to be aware that that's going on, but sAviOr also did not micro those Zerglings out of there and instead focus his attention on the Mutalisks. I don't like the position of that bunker. It cuts off 2 of those minerals nearby where that scanner is, so it's not a very good position. Now, notice sAviOr's excellent Mutalisk micro.
Yeah, as you can see here, he's working these 2 Mutalisks. Now the missile turrets get up. Mutalisks are going to have to get out of there. And although he did stop that force of Zerglings down below at that choke point, he did lose a supply depot and several Marines there. That spotter is still out there, and I'm not really sure. I think there's some more Mutalisks joining up over there, and there they are. There's 3 more coming in from the opposite direction. Nice, they take out that medic right there. They'll get out of there. Then you mentioned his micro. I mean, it just looks fantastic right here.
Yeah, he just really has impeccable micro. Now the Terran has to be very careful on how he engages the Mutalisks, because when you're sAviOr, your Mutalisks are really good, and he can really pick off Marines if he's not careful. Look at that; he just goes in there, shoots it, and while the glaives are leaving the mouths of the Mutalisks have already turned around. I mean,
Yeah.
that is incredible micro.
And so these Marines are desperately trying to get within range of these Mutalisks. Still, I have not seen one go down. And look at this, over and over, that amazing, impeccable control of those Mutalisks right there. I believe that's actually, and finally they're going to make their way in. Too much, but here comes the Zerglings from the south, and he is going to pull out from there. But again, like the kill-death ratio of those Mutalisks was like amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean he's definitely making the best use of those Mutalisks. And at this point in time, well, you know, although I did see him mismicro it a little bit near the end, and I don't know if he's replenished the Mutalisks enough, but this is sAviOr, and he's nearly impossible to beat, even if you're Android. So it's going to be tough for him to kind of come back and recover from this.
More Mutalisks are going to come out of sAviOr's base here, rally up with the rest of them. We have not seen any vehicles coming out from Android. And is there a reason for that, Tasteless? I mean, is he waiting to see what sAviOr's going to throw at him next? He obviously knows that he's going to be working these Mutalisks, so he set up the missile turrets. We do have some siege tanks out finally as a factory off to the side, and these Mutalisks are going to catch up to him right now.
sAviOr's going to try to pick off these tanks. He does not want his opponent to get too many tanks, so sAviOr switching his tech to lurkers pretty soon here. 2 tanks going down right now. You know, sAviOr is stacking his Mutalisks so well, it's very difficult to tell how many he actually has. But it looks like it's a lot because of how fast he's able to pick off those tanks. Now, Android's regrouping his army, and he is going to try to push pretty soon here from what it seems like. Meanwhile, sAviOr, doing what a good Zerg player would do, is going to force his opponent to either choose to attack now and lose SCVs in his expansion, in his main, or stay in his base. Hold position, lurkers right now. Android has no idea, and he's just let them go.
Lurkers are burrowed. They finally get scanned. They're going to see him now. He's going to take out 2, and in the meantime, a Zerg force is going to come in from the northeast and the southwest and try to corner off this army. And this Zergling push is just too much. The Hydralisk coming from the west will take out the remaining siege tanks and those Marines. And that, to me, just looked like a flawless strategy right there. And that's going to be it. That's going to be GG right there. The lurkers were not scanned. That was sort of one of those surprises.
What he did there was there's a trick where you can grab overlords and lurkers and hit hold position. And it's a bug, but it's an abusable bug. I mean, it's a bug that's allowed to be abused in the tournament, unlike, for instance, like the observer bug over the turret. And what that does is Android doesn't know that he's even on the lurkers until it's too late. Then he lets him go and totally wipes out his opponent's army. sAviOr does.
Unfortunately for Android, that means he has been eliminated. Russia is out, and we will not see a gold place from the one guy who has medaled in StarCraft as a non-Korean in past World Cyber Game. And those matches were so quick, and I got to be honest with you, just watching sAviOr, he just, it makes it seem like he's playing like a normal computer AI. No offense to Android, because we did see some decent play, but the Mutalisk control. the multi-tiered attacks coming out. It's just fantastic. Coming up next is going to be Stork from Korea versus Satanic. And we should be having another fantastic matchup. Best of 3 up here on stage. More StarCraft. Don't go away. It's the World Cyber Games 2007 Grand Finals.
Driven by a passion to win, playing heart to heart, face to face. A challenge of a lifetime stands before us now.